We said we were going to get these rental power plants. Then that whole issue has collapsed, and we're not getting those. From where are we actually? And we keep having this benighted Minister of Power and Water and Power saying he keeps giving deadlines. At the end of December 2009, there'll be no outages. Then he says now in March 2010 there'll be no outages. I mean, he lies through his teeth, the man, and we're going in for outages.
I'll put it differently. I say he was a little too optimistic in giving these dates. But
I think in Pakistan we need to be very honest about things. He was not being optimistic, he was just being mendacious. But having said that, that seems to be congenital with our political leaders. But having said that, let's just come back to this, okay? We've talked about...
How do we meet this gap?
How do we meet this gap?
Let me give you an example. The total capacity at the moment is about 20,000, 21,000 megawatts installed capacity.
No.
Do you know what the average production has been the last 2 years?
What?
53%. We're working at 53% of our capacity.
Why? Why are
people talk about the circular debt, for example, number one.
Oh, yes.
No, that's one. Now, people talk about, you keep hearing that grid has broken down, that power plant is shut down. Bad maintenance. We'll be very happy putting up a new power plant, but for God's sake, there's no such thing as a 30-year lifetime or a 50-year lifetime. There's a power plant, it's got thousands of parts, one part goes bad, it's got a life, replace it, maintain it. Then the people, when Wabda was one, it was pretty efficient, in spite of everything that people hear and say. What's happened? The attrition. They've lost the good people. They're no longer available. Our universities, they don't teach them, they talk about electrical engineering, but they only teach them electronics or IT. This is the buzzword, this is the fashionable, the market. And power engineer, it's not being taught. And now if you want to go in for a major power program, you need engineers, you need people who are trained in power plants. They don't have them. Thirdly, it's part of the culture that we developed over the years that the 21st century needs professional people who have a breadth of vision and also can focus and be professional and have narrow spikes. They're excellent in some things. And here, you cannot have a BA in history coming up, and with all due respect, they're wonderful people in the civil services. True. By and large, most of them are not really up to the job of the 21st century, really. So one day, they're heading water and power. I'll give you an example. This is very personal, but a year ago, I was called in from GIK. Somebody was making a presentation to the president, and they said, let's bring in Jatrofa, and Jatrofa will generate oil, we'll press it, we'll get oil, and we'll get biodiesel. Why? And because India has a major biodiesel Jatrofa plant project. I said, excuse me. This meeting was in October 2008, and I said, sir, in August, 8th of August, the Economic Times of India has headlines, Sharad Power quietly kills the Jatrofa project. You see?
So we don't even know. We don't even know what is going on. We are not au fait with developments.
We are not current with development. We look at buzzwords. We look at headlines. We don't go into details. We don't have a complete, let's say, SWOT analysis. What are the problems? For example, in biodiesel, you press in the lab. Fine, in GIK they were doing this. And you press the thing, you get the oil. You run a diesel engine. It's okay for 1 kilogram. It's okay for 10 kilograms. But Jatrofa can be toxic. What do you do with the cake which is left behind? Okay. What about the fumes coming out? When you talk of, we have an energy production of energy requirement of 60 million tons of oil equivalent. We're talking millions of tons of cake, millions of tons of gases coming out.
It can't be dispersed off either.
And renewable energy, if you allow me to move to renewable energy, biodiesel is one of those aspects. The biggest impact on the renewable energy doesn't work anywhere without major subsidies.
We just identify for the viewer, because you're using terminology that perhaps the layman doesn't have access to. By biofuels, you mean, would you just explain, or alternative sources?
You can have oil from natural growing plants, and you can use them to power engine. So you can do this. Do you know that the first car engine that was produced about 1880s, 1890s ran on ethanol?
Really? Really? That's interesting.
I don't know. Now,
But sorry, we're going to have to dispense with this, because Pakistan being an agricultural country, we're finding it difficult enough to feed our people. We have to import, wheat all the time. We import sugar.
And they're losing good land to urban sprawl.
Urban sprawl, so that kind of thing. So we really cannot, we're not in a position like Brazil, which has vast tracts of land that can be used for crops that can turn into biofuel.
Not just tracts of land, it's on the tropics. Lots of rainfall. It doesn't need artificial irrigation.
Like
it doesn't need to pump water from the ground.
So it's economical to do it.
Yes. It's natural to grow.
Right. So we don't have that advantage, so we need not look at biofuel. What about alternative sources like wind power, solar power, and of course most important, nuclear power? What is your take on this? Can we develop it significantly?
Okay, wind, solar and nuclear. Wind energy in terms of nuclear energy is very well developed. It's had about 50 years of development.
Yes.
But it's limited ultimately by the amount of uranium available in the world. If I can allow me to explain, there's a one-through process. You put in uranium, you get some spent fuel, then you put in new uranium. The alternative is reprocessing, that you can mix oxides and plutonium and breeder reactors.
Yeah.
Now for the last 50 years, they haven't been made to overcome the technical or financial barriers, economic barriers to make reprocessing breeder reactors economical. They don't work. So once through, we don't have enough fuel in this world, uranium to power all the reactors that we want.
Okay, we just have to go for a break. Viewers, stay with us. We're taking a short break. We'll be back.